Hello, my art-loving friends. Today is very exciting because we are finally digging into the Dina Wakley Media Journal. This is the smaller size, not the bigger size, but it's a good intro to this whole kind of crazy sketchbook. Has 4 or 5 different surfaces in it, and I'm really excited to do this. I thought it would be way more fun if I had a partner in crime to do this with me and help keep me accountable. So I sent one of these over to my friend Noodle, and she is collaborating on this project with me and doing her own first set of pages in this crazy journal. So definitely go check out her channel. I will link it below. She and I posted at the same time today, so both our videos should be up for you to see. And I'm curious, I can't wait to go see her video and see how she dealt with these different surfaces. So just in case you've never seen this journal before, it has 4 signatures in it, and there is cotton rag, watercolor paper, burlap, there is linen, this is linen, and there is kraft paper. And I like to work in these things from front to back. I don't really like to skip around. So luckily in the beginning of the book is the kraft paper, otherwise I'd have to wait till the very end of the signature to find kraft paper again. So we do get kraft paper on the beginning here, and let's just get started. So I'm going to show you this book in order, but I actually did this out of order, the first 7 or so pages. So I showed you this section of the video. I showed you this entire process using my Casein dried gouache palette in a previous video. That's why I'm speeding through this. So I will link that video for you in the iCard and in the description box below, so you can find it if you haven't seen this one yet. It was pretty fun. The gouache worked great on the kraft paper. I did have to use it a little bit wet, so it soaked in a bit, but you can see when that blue dried how beautiful and vibrant it was. That was 2 coats on most of the blue, however. And then I just decorated the outside of the words with some art type of objects, and this is how it turned out. I really like this for an inside cover page. I think it is perfect for this book. And now on to the next page. For this little adventure, I have my Sarah Burns gouache brushes. I'll pull out of here. And I have this, basically a wax paper palette that I've had since I was a young girl. So, or this one came from my grandma's house. Same difference, really, because it would be from when I was a young girl. And the thing I noticed with this Casein gouache is that it has, well, many of the tubes have a lot of binder separation because I poured some into Classic Portable Painter palette to take on my trip with me. And yeah, a lot of them had binder separation. So like you can see these ones that I've kind of squished around, I stuck a toothpick in and stirred them around, and hopefully that's better. And not all of them did, but those 3 in particular were really bad. 4, this one too. So we'll see about the colors I want to use today, if this works out or not, or how many more I will be squishing around. And some of the paint from the previous page came through just in tiny little dots there, and there. Not a big deal, but I did notice in my watercolor palette there's little hairs and threads just all over the watercolor pans in that palette from this. So I need to go back and watch a lot of Denise Love's early videos on when she first started her sketchbooks like this, because she probably has some good hints and tips on how to control that a little bit better. Regardless, I'm having a fun time with it, and I just realized I'm sitting down, I'm like ready to paint. I don't have water. I better go get water. My original plan was to do this page in watercolor, but I did the next pages first, and that was testing out the Aquatone full pan set, which I do already have a video on my channel about, and I will also link that in the iCard and the description box below for you. And in that video, I found out that watercolor just doesn't work very well on this paper. It works, and I think that I could have a lot of fun with it still, and I'm going to, because there are a lot of pages of this particular paper in this sketchbook, but it works really good for gouache. So I am very happy with the sketchbook and using it with gouache. So I think that's probably going to be my go-to. Maybe this will be the kind of gouache sketchbook for the most part. Again, I still think I can have fun in here with alcohol ink, with watercolor, with other kinds of liquidy things, but in this particular sketchbook, the watercolor does try and soak through, and it really soaks into the paper. So gouache for the win. I did just see a video from Denise Love about this watercolor paper is slightly different than the big sketchbook version of this. She did a test, and in this smaller sketchbook, she noticed that the colors will bleed through on this white paper. And in the bigger sketchbook, she has never had a color bleed through. So I do have the big version of this same sketchbook, and I should try the same thing. And as soon as I get a free moment and think of it again, I will do that and let you guys know. I don't think you can get the big sketchbook anymore, but in case they re-release her new book and it has similar paper in it, I don't know if it's a new book, you probably have to retest it anyway. It may not even be important to know, but I guess if you have this sketchbook or you're thinking about getting this small sketchbook, it might be good information to have. So you can see the gouache here is working quite nice. The Sarah Burns brushes are very easy to use. I find them just perfect for about anything I need for gouache. It is a good combination of brushes. So if you haven't gotten gouache brushes and you need some, definitely consider purchasing these Sarah Burns gouache brushes from Craftimo. And it helps support Sarah too, and she's just a really great artist and seems to be a very nice person from what I can see. Here I'm adding a little bit of burnt sienna to that tree back there. It almost makes it look like a Christmas tree, except it's not so much in person. I just like a little bit of color added in that tree, so I'll do that here on the right side as well. So this is a photo reference taken from my trip to Canada. So this was just a beautiful lake we went to, and I was with my friend, and my friend was in this picture, but I know she wouldn't want me to paint her, so I took her out of the picture when I sketched it in here and just did my dog and I. So Duffy and me are the only ones in this picture, and it still is really fun. But I will always have the memory of this picture with my good friend in it. We had such a fun time on this trip. It was mostly just her and I for a good majority of the time. I think at the last 7 days or so, we ended up meeting up with 2 or 3 other ladies, which was fun too. I always have a good time with good people like that. But yep, mostly just her and I for most of this trip. And so really cool memories, especially now. This lake here was one that I think burned down in, like, the lodge part of it burned down in the fires. So that's really sad. And the fire I'm talking about is the fire at Jasper National Park in Canada. And this is Malign Lake. Yeah, so sad. But I'm really grateful that I got to see it before it got charred. And I just... when I saw the news, just brought tears to my eyes. Anyway, we're not going to talk about that anymore. I have this beautiful memory of this area, and it was beautiful at that time, and I'm sure it will be beautiful in the future again. So lots of little details here. This probably took forever. I didn't bother adding up the time on all of the footage. So just know it took a good long time, especially painting me. If I'm going to paint people, I think I need them to be bigger than this, because the small details on the face are tricky at this size. And I still have to go back and adjust the sunglasses a little bit. I tried putting a highlight on them, and it just kind of made them look funky. So I need to go back and fix that. And I could use my dried gouache palette to do that, because it works really well. But I had a lot of fun painting Duffy, at least. That was the cool part. He turned out pretty neat. Even my husband, who always tells me exactly what he thinks of my paintings, And that actually ends up being a good thing. It gives me some food for thought, even though it sometimes upsets me at the first. Anyway, he's like, well, you did really good painting Duffy. But he said, your face looks a little weird, though. Well, I kind of agree with him, so couldn't get upset at that point. Anyway, I think that's so funny how our spouses and their comments are always a thing of discussion online. I also really like this gouache, by the way. It is nice. It re-wets well in my dried gouache palette, and it works great straight out of the tube. And on this paper and with big brushes, I did have to water it down to get it to spread nicely, and it still remained opaque. But I did have white mixed in, so there is that thing to consider. Everything gets more opaque when you mix white into it. It helps a lot. If you want opaqueness, it helps a lot. If you don't want opaqueness, then it hinders a lot. So I'm trying to give you a feel for how this page went without speeding it up, because I know that can be a little hard to watch, so that's why it's just cutting into little snippets here and there. And you can see a little bit of my hesitation, looking back at the photo, trying to figure out where I want my highlights, being impatient, putting them in too soon before things are dry, putting them in too light because I had it too wet. Anyway, at this point I pretty well felt that I was done, but of course I'm not done, because you always go back and look at your work later and you're like, whoa, I've got to change that, or oh, I forgot that, or completely didn't do that shadow, or something like that. So it's always good not to post your work until you've given it a day or two to look at it and assess and change things if you need to. So other than the face, this is a done page. I'll do the face later. Moving on to this next one. This is also something I showed you in a previous video when I was trying out this full pan set of the Aquatone watercolors. I know I've already mentioned it here. However, I did leave you hanging in that video because I told you this is how this video ends, but more to come on that page. So here's just a good look at the watercolor set again, in case you missed that video and you don't have time to watch it right now. Little big full pans in this set, great color selection, and I tried them all out in a swatch session on these 2 pages. So it's a full go across both sides of the book, really fun thing. And we can pick up where I left off in that video and show you how it ends in this video, which is really fun. So this here is basically what you saw in that last video. I'm just showing you the last little bits of that. And now you get to see what I transformed it into, which is such a work of art. I love it. Here we go. I think I already briefly mentioned to you that I pull out the acrylic markers, and for this I am using the Ohuhu acrylic markers. Ohuhu has sent me several products now, colored pencils, alcohol markers, these acrylic markers, and I have liked everything they've sent me. My only thing with this set is it comes with a lot of metallic colors, and I would prefer to have a set that was all just colors, not metallics. But anyway, that's for a different time. I already did that video on this set, but that's what I'm going to use to finish this double spread. I started out by putting black around all of the blank spaces and giving them a nice outline. Each little swatch has its black outline. I filled in any whites of the page that I could, and having the bullet nib was really handy on the one side of the marker to do the spine, because it gets a little bit indented enough that that big tip I'm using right now that you're seeing won't go in that small space, but I just flipped the marker to the other side and the little bullet nib went right in there. Technically, both sides are bullet nibs. One is just super thick and one is nice and thin. And while I would love to show this to you in real time, it's just too long. Even though this is relatively simple, it is filling in all the blanks and it takes some time. It's very relaxing. It is neat to see it slowly come together and very enjoyable. I'm just going to leave it sped up though because of the time it takes. It's really neat though how you can still see the color of the swatch behind the designs. So if you needed to refer to what color something was, again, if you decide to swatch this way and only this way, you still can get a really good read on the color. So I think that's kind of neat. And I heard many of your comments, I guess I should say I read many of your comments where you're going to swatch like this too from now on. And I think that's wonderful. This just turns into a really pretty piece of art. It's something more than just messy swatches in your sketchbook. And I think that it definitely ups the game when it comes to swatch pages in a sketchbook. It's very enjoyable to look at. I think I've said enjoyable a little too much in this little section, but that's okay. And I should go ahead and ask you, have you swatched like this since that video, since I showed that? Because so many of you, like I already mentioned, said you were going to do this, and it's just fun. It's fun, first of all, to see so much of the color come out because you're doing big ones and small ones and you're repeating some colors, and then you can make artwork out of it like I'm doing now later, even if I had just left it as it was kind of already an artwork, but gives you lots of options. So did any of you go out and swatch like this? If so, did you turn it into something more like I'm doing now, or did you just leave it as it was before I started this process with the acrylic markers? Definitely let me know in the comments below. Also, I have been reading every comment that comes in. I just have not always replied to them all yet, but please do know I read your comments. Your comments are really important to me, and sometimes all I can manage at the time is just putting a heart on it. Just know that heart comes from my heart. I appreciate your comment, and I've read it, and I'm grateful to have it in there. And if I can reply to comments, then I certainly do my best. Just receiving quite a few comments lately, and sometimes it's hard to get to them all. You know, life. There's a lot of life going on. It's really fun to see this page start to come together, though, in this time lapse. Just brings back the joy of the page all over again, and I love that. I did somehow manage not to film everything. I don't know how that happened, but I think you can get the idea of the page and what we have going here. Plus, I will be showing you a flip through of all these pages again in order at the end of the video, so you can get a recap of them and refresh your memory. I guess I kind of did get the end here. I'm just cleaning up the black lines. I just didn't do one of those panning through it kind of shots. For the next page, I wanted to do oil pastels, and this is the 48 color set from Paul Rubens. It's their Haya version, and they actually just sent me this new 72 set that I'm really excited to try out, and I'll probably try it out in this book. However, you can see the watercolor has seeped through to the back side of the paper. You see those dots there, basically the lavender colored dots, that one dark colored and the pink dots. That's the watercolor from that previous page. But I wasn't worried about it at all because oil pastel should cover anything and everything. Now these are very soft oil pastels. I have also done a video about them on my channel already where I was using real canvas and I painted a lion. Painted. It's painting with oil pastels. We're just going to say painted. Anyway, that's a really fun project that I still have to put whiskers on him, but I think it's done other than that. He's so cute. I'll link that video for you as well. I have a lot of videos to link for you. For this scene, I just wanted something playful and colorful. So I thought a little house scene on hills so that I could do green grass and colorful homes would be perfect. And while I should have gotten a glove to do this, I did not. I'm just using my bare finger and rubbing it across the pastel, as you can see quite clearly, to blend them into the paper and a little bit together. It works really well. I didn't have very much of the pigment on the paper, but it's still blending pretty nicely. And one nice thing about this particular paper is that technically it's relatively smooth, yet it still has enough tooth that it grabs onto the pastel and lets you deposit enough pigment onto the paper. So it's a really good balance, and I can't wait to try it again with the new set of oil pastels. I really enjoy oil pastels a lot. I don't necessarily enjoy the lack of specificity. Wow, that was a hard word. I don't really like how I can't get a lot of detail we'll just go with that with them because they're so soft and whatnot. However, you can bring in harder pastels with square edges for details, or come in with a different product, like maybe an oil pencil or something like that. You'll see later here that I come in with a brush pen and do some outlining, and the brush pen goes over the oil pastel amazingly well. I was kind of surprised. Anyway, jumping ahead of myself a little bit there, just trying to finish up the details I can get with the oil pastels. And you can see I got in the windows fairly decently, but here's where I pull out that pigment liner brush tip pen, and that's kind of neat because it allows me to just clean things up. I think I probably even go in the windows maybe. I don't know if I shape up those windows or not. We'll have to wait and see. This was back in January. I was in my camp trailer, so I only had what I packed with me on my month-long trip. So I do go in and clean the windows up. Yay! But anyway, I didn't have any other oil pastels with me, just these. So no hard edge pastels to clean things up. That is why I decided to pull out the pigment liner brush pen and do it with that. And I think you'll agree it really helps the artwork here. And then the artwork seemed kind of lonely, so I put in some birds, and then it still seemed lonely. I decided it needed a dog and a cat. And the dog is watching the cat, or the cat is watching the dog, or maybe they're watching each other. And then the bottom seemed kind of boring, so I put in some flowers. I really like this one. It makes me happy when I look at it. And what I don't show in this video is that I did have a fixative with me, or did I? And maybe fixed it when I got home. Oh no, I did. I had Liquitex gloss varnish with me, and I brushed that over the top of it, and it worked perfectly. Does not leak onto the next page at all. Moving on to the burlap page, you can probably see what it ended like in the previous clip there, but I am pulling off some wax paper here to put under it because it has a lot of big holes in it, and I wanted to try putting watercolor ground on it. I have I have 2 small bottles of watercolor ground. You can see them both there on the right under my hand, and they're very old at this point. So I kind of wanted to use them / use them up at some point. And those spring clips were from my grandma's house in the original packaging. They're probably from my great grandma. They're nice and strong, but they don't like clamp down really hard like the office black. I don't even know what the black ones are called, but anyway, the other black ones can dent your paper if you're not careful, or your sketchbook cover. So yes, wax paper underneath the burlap. And then I thought it would be fun to try and use a palette knife to apply the watercolor ground. So that's what I'm trying here. And that was really fun because it just kind of is painting with the palette knife, except it's watercolor ground that I'm going to paint on again later. So it actually worked pretty well. And I'm not putting a super thick layer of watercolor ground. I wanted to experiment. I wanted to try and see what it was like if I put this much on there, and could I paint on it with watercolor. So that's what you're going to see here. Okay, I am in week 3 here, watercolor, and this is the page I prepped. That page is still very ooey gooey because I haven't done anything to seal it. I thought I brought my sealer besides just Liquitex gloss varnish, but I can't find it. I also didn't pull everything out. So watercolor. I do have my bigger set of Aquatone watercolors with me, but I made this little set before I left home. And I showed this tin and this 3D printed insert to you in my Christmas birthday art haul. I'll link that in the corner up here and in the description box below in case you missed it. So I poured some of the Aquatone into this little palette. Oh, the wind is blowing really hard. Anyway, I'm going to use just this palette, but I realized I didn't make a swatch sheet for this palette, but I know the general order I put colors in, so it'll be fine. Some colors might be a guess, but it's fine. I'll try leaving this in here at first and just using the lid as mixing space, but I am not sure how much room I will have. And then I'm trying this little travel cup. It has a little bear on the bottom. So cute. I'm in my camp trailer. I have plenty of other things I could use for water, but I wanted to try that. All right, round size 12 and watercolor ground on this thing. And the reference photo was somewhere on my phone. I gotta find that. All right, here we are. There's this picture here and this one here of a sunrise that one of my friends took on, or sunset, one of my friends took online. I think I like the sky in this one and the trees in this one, give or take. I don't know, it's not going to be the most interesting painting after all. And I only packed one rosy color, but I do have a nice blue in there. Let me think about this a minute, see if this is what I actually want to do or not. I think we will. I have other great pictures, but I don't even know if painting on this surface is going to work. You know, burlap covered in watercolor ground. This could be pretty interesting. So let's even just try some of this color. See what even happens. Ooh. Okay, it's not horrible. I mean, color is going down on it. Wonder what happens if you hit the I don't want to hit the burlap because then it's like off my frame, you know? You know, I wrote these colors down. Oh, look, I already got some in the red. I wrote these colors down on a piece of paper. I do have that piece of paper with me somewhere in my art supplies tub that I packed. I'll have to pull that out so I can make my little swatch sheet. I guess the next question is, did I bring loose paper that I can even make a swatch sheet with? What is this blue? This is beautiful. Now I need to know. I'll tell you guys. I'll pull that paper out before I publish this video and let you guys know what these colors are, because this one's really pretty. I'm guessing, without looking, that it is the royal blue. So it looks like the pigment is kind of soaking through and disappearing quite a bit. At this point, I'm just kind of making up the reference photo because my screen turned off, but that's okay. Definitely putting more purple in here than my reference photo has, but it's pretty and I like it. Let's see what this color is. Ooh, what is that color? That's pretty. Okay, I need to look these colors up here in a minute. Maybe later, actually. I have to leave on a ride in just a few minutes, but I wanted to get some painting time in. There's this place here you can go to the top of I was gonna say a mountain, but really it's like a hill, and shoot golf balls off of. I don't know how to golf, but I can toss a golf ball off a hill, I'm sure. Did it last year. I don't know if I hit any golf balls off. I was kind of watching everyone else do it though. Yeah, the color's just kind of soaking in and disappearing. So I didn't put a ton of watercolor ground on this. I just put a little bit. That's pretty though. Anyway, yeah, I think I probably needed more watercolor ground to really show the watercolor in its full brightness, because it's still just soaking in, as you can see, almost as if the ground weren't even there. Be curious to see what the other side looks like here in a minute. Should we put some yellow up in the sky? Why not? Maybe the yellow will show up. Why is there yellow in your sunset sky? Why not? I don't even see a sunset sky anymore. It all disappeared. I have to make them like really vibrant and see if they stick or not. Be interesting. Oops, I don't want that red. Well, maybe. Probably is pretty, but I don't think it'll go with the rest of this here. Watercolors seem nice, at least. Must be a brown because it's not activating. I heard a rumor the browns in this set don't activate well, so that could be true. Or like they're really low pigmented. Okay, I must have put some kind of indentrine blue or indigo in this kit, because that blue is beautiful and I love it, and I'm glad it's here. Dang it, my reference photo went away again. There are some dark greens in the reference, so let's, oops, dark greens I said. Let's get some dark greens going. It's probably as good as we're gonna get with the surface I prepped, but you know, that's okay. Since I don't have a black or anything, I could use a dark blue to paint these trees. I just don't know if they're going to show up either. I might actually pull out that brush pen I was using on this page. Let's get a smaller brush. We can try the dark blue and see, or mix it. I think if we mix this dark blue with the green, I don't want to use up all this paint. I could get my other kit out. Let's put like a little test and see if this even will still show up. Is this wet still? I mean, obviously it should be. It just seemed like it's soaking through so fast that it was drying quickly, but I know I just painted on it. Don't come after me. I know I just painted on it. Anyway, so yeah, it is still, oops, what? Oh, that's purple. That would be a good idea. Anyway, it is still spreading just like cotton, any watercolor paper would still spread when the paint is wet. I just switched to using purple because I like it. These are less, what do you call those? Less maintained palm trees, so they're kind of a mess. Much messier than we usually see in resorts or anywhere like that. I should go ahead and do at least one more tree while the paper's still in this wet phase so they kind of look similar. I don't want them to look too different if I come back and do it at a later time, you know. Getting a little stressed about how much time I don't have left to work on this, so I think we'll kind of leave it for now. I'll go get ready for my ride and we'll play again with it when I get back. Well, maybe tomorrow actually, because we have a full day of events today here. Yeah, we'll see if we can't refine some of this and make it look like something more reasonable. Don't really look like much now, but the more dark colors definitely helped. And when later came, I came back and continued working on this little project. I'm using a very blunt, small brush here, but it just didn't work out for me, so I grabbed my silver black velvet, round size 6. It just comes to a nice fine point, so you can get really tiny details. I may end up purchasing a few more of these brushes. I'm going to have to see. I am liking it more and more. It took me a while to get used to it, and now I kind of rely on it. It's in my to-go kit with me every single day, anytime I paint. We are gonna call that good on this one. because. Alright, we got a brush pen here. Let's sign this in a very abbreviated way. Sweet, there we go. So this is watercolor ground. Oh yeah, I forgot to show you guys the back side. Look at that. Yeah, definitely not enough watercolor ground to prevent it from coming through, but it is not on this page. As far as I can see, there's maybe a spot there, maybe there, but it also might just be the paper. It doesn't really look like any colors on that page, but lots of color on this page. Let's see what we can do with this side after a bit too. I don't want to shut this all the way yet. It's still pretty wet. It took a long time to dry when I went out on the ride earlier, so just leave it be for now. I do need to figure out how to varnish that, or just keep wax paper in it forever until I get home. Turns out I am already tired of the wax paper. I brought this Liquitex gloss varnish with me. I just poured it on my page. It looks like it is smearing the oil pastel a little bit. We're just gonna see if this sets the pastel or if it just makes a big mess. So at least you guys are on this journey with me one way or another. I love the little dog and cat, and it's my favorite part. All right, let me get it an angle, see if I got all the nooks and crannies, although I just realized that means I cannot use this book until this varnish dries. That won't take too long, but I kind of thought maybe I could do another page. But now I get to wait. Okay, I think that's thick enough. There's enough left in here for another coat if it looks like I might need another coat later, but we'll see what happens on this one and go from there. We'll put the lid on that, and I will take this clip, try and push this open. There we go. Clip this open so it doesn't accidentally get shut. That would be really bad. Okay, it's even enough, and it's all over my hands. And I am going to wash this brush out and see if I can't save it in case I want to use it again. I think I brought two with me, but just in case, I'll try and clean this one. I'm sure the barcode is helpful. That's really helpful. Anyway, I won't continue doing this over my watercolor there, but I'll clean the brush and let this dry. We'll go from there. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay, quick little update on this. It appears to have worked. This is overnight. I don't know, a little blue is on my finger. I pressed really hard just then. I think we got a winner. The next finger is fine. That finger is fine. Maybe just some of the really thick spots might come through, but I'm calling that a win. Looks like the varnish will work, so that's good news. I can shut this without this annoying wax paper in the middle for now. And I have enough varnish to do it one more time if I need to. Okay, well, I like that. Way better. So even if it comes off a tiny bit, I don't think my finger was blue already. I think that's from this, but it's not coming off on my other fingers. Interesting. Yeah, I think we're good. And on to the last surface we need to paint on in this book, linen. And I am at the week already where I'm supposed to be doing Casein. And yes, these are old clips from January, but sometimes that's how collaborations work. We weren't quite ready to put our videos up, and so we had to delay a little bit, both of us, on both sides, not just her side. So anyway, I received these 4 tubes of Casein from a friend, and it should be fun. I am kind of excited. Actually, sorry, I only received the 3 tubes, and I brought the white from home because I knew I would need a white to paint successfully. And I didn't have white Casein. I only have the 3 tubes of Casein. So I looked it up, and you can use a gouache with Casein. So that's the white I pulled in with me. It's acrylic gouache, I think. I don't know. I'll have to look at that tube again. And these are the acrylic brushes I have my students buy, and they come in such a nice compact case, and they're all the sizes you really need. So I just threw that in my bag, and now I have everything I could possibly need for this painting. It's going to be really exciting. And what you saw a minute ago was I am using palette paper. The back side of it, I just flipped it over from when I did the gouache painting in the very beginning. I just took it from home like that and taped it back to itself. So this should be fun, and I have a really fun reference photo to use too. I saw this photo online and I thought it was perfect because I don't have a yellow. This is a cadmium orange, and it could be challenging to do certain paintings without a bright yellow, so we are going to do this one. So I may show this painting process in a separate video later and get into the details of Casein more in that video, because this video is already getting really long, but it's fun, I can tell you that much. I am keeping these 3 tubes. It did not get put in the, oh, okay, I used it, I don't want it bin, that's for sure. So I do want to explore it some more. You can see here I didn't do any drawing or anything. I'm just throwing paint on there. It did come through the linen, so when I noticed that, I grabbed that wax paper that I hadn't gotten rid of yet and put behind it and just kept putting in my background. You get a very olivey green with these color combinations. It can be quite pretty, or it can be super muddy if you get too carried away with it, but I liked it a lot. So I felt that it worked out really well for this painting. Look at that rose color. Isn't that pretty? I'll put the colors I used down in the description box below. And this is the Richardson brand of Casein. And I don't know what other brands sell Casein, but if I do that video that goes more in depth on Casein, I am going to find out for you guys and let you know everything I can about it. As far as the linen in this sketchbook, I was so excited to paint on it, and I really didn't want to prepare the surface like I did with the burlap. I wanted to just paint on it as is, and that's why I chose something that was a little bit more like acrylic, because it creates its own, basically its own barrier. You can see, that's why I put the wax paper, that it did come through the holes in the linen, but it's fine. I mean, it has holes in it. Of course, paint's gonna come through. And it's fabric. It'll soak up anything you put on it that's very liquidy. And sometimes you thin your paint down to get it to spread more, and you thin it with water in this case, so that makes it thinner, going through the holes more easily and soaking into the fabric. So anyway, all common sense stuff, but you can see I switched to a smaller brush there, try and get some details in this glass of wine. And it's super fun to just sketch with paint, especially paint that will cover itself back up. So if you make any mistakes, just let it dry and paint over the top of it. Makes it a pretty stress-free process. This sketchbook is so much fun because as you get to these different surfaces, it makes you look around your studio and find different art supplies that maybe you haven't used in a while and try them out, because you're like, okay, I tried Casein, now what can I paint on this next with? It's really, I don't know what the word is, like really inspiring, really motivating. It's exciting too. And even if the watercolor paper isn't perfect for watercolor, it's still fun. I did do another watercolor page in here, which you'll see in the flip through at the end, and I did feature that almost exclusively on this channel, like the whole process, when I was painting with the core olive green and trying that out. So you probably saw that video if you watch my channel. If not, I will link it also in the corner if I have enough corner links available still, and I'll put it in the description box below. It'll probably be labeled Cores Olive Green or something like that. Now these last little details are pretty finicky, so I have sped this up by 2000% here towards the end, but this is basically how it ends up. I may adjust something a little bit later, I can't remember, but for now, this is what we have. Not bad for not sketching it out, and this is what it looks like on the back side. So I'm glad I put the wax paper in there after it leaked the first time. And now that this Casein is on this side, I should be able to paint on the back side with acrylic or something okay. All right. Are you ready to see it? I mean, for me, it's been like a month, but for you guys, a few minutes. But here we are. Kraft paper with gouache, watercolor paper with gouache. Have I fixed the face yet? No, not yet. We are not going to talk about it. The awesome Aquatone watercolor page. I love this page so much. Makes me happy. And the oil pastels page. It's very shiny now that I've varnished it. I did use a gloss varnish. I need to see if I have or purchase some matte varnish because I want to use some oil pastels a little bit more often. And the gloss varnish is pretty, but a little shiny for me. Burlap with the watercolor ground and the Aquatone watercolors. It's nice and thick now, but it's still flexible. I don't want to flex it too much because it would break the watercolor ground, but it still remains a little flexible. Not my most favorite painting ever, but whatever. I haven't done anything on the back side of it yet, but I might. And this is the one I didn't show in this video because I couldn't find the footage of it anymore. It's probably on my backup drives, but anyway. I figured you could go watch this video about the core olive green to see this one. And I used Sarah Renee Clark's color cubes. I'm so excited to use those some more. But watercolor paper, haven't done anything on the back side of this yet either. And I don't like leaving blank pages in my sketchbooks, so I probably will end up doing something with these. And this one, oh, I love this one. I love this one so much. The Casein on the linen. probably use acrylic on the back side, like real acrylic, as opposed to fake acrylic. You know what I mean. And then we'll see on this side, probably use gouache because it'll cover that. And it's not that damaged, just a little bit of color leaked through. So I'm excited to get back in here. So I have several pages of this watercolor paper before I get back to linen, back to watercolor paper. And the most challenging for me is the burlap, because I'm not really a collage artist, but I think it could be really fun for collage. But I'll watch more of Denise Love's videos at some point and maybe get some ideas. More watercolor paper and the craft paper. And then we repeat. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this look at Dina Wakley's Media Journal, multi-surface journal for mixed media. It is definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. Definitely spurs the creativity. And I will let you guys go because this video is forever long, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.